Hi, my name is Todd Bigelow. I'm a freelance photographer based in Los Angeles for the last 30 years, working primarily with editorial, corporate, and nonprofit clients. I'm also an adjunct professor of photography and photojournalism and a soon-to-be author on a book on freelance business practices. This is 2 Minutes with Todd, a short video series where I address business practices for freelancers. Hope you enjoy. Hey everyone. So today I want to circle back a little bit and talk about copyright and control of your work. So I've already talked about basic things you need to understand about copyright. That's already a video that's posted, so I'm not going to go into that. What I want to kind of dwell on today briefly is the connection between copyright and controlling your work and why that's important. And I want to talk about two examples from the past week. Okay, so to me, it's very important as a freelancer that I control my work. In order to control my work, I copyright my work. Okay, that obviously allows me to determine how and where my work is used or published. Okay, so there are a lot of opportunities out there for freelancers to work with particular clients. And unfortunately, a lot of clients do require that you relinquish control of your work in the future, meaning work for hire agreements and in other manners whereby you're relinquishing the copyright often. I've been against that my entire 30 years of freelancing. And this past week is a really good example why. So earlier in the week, I saw that the Washington Post had run a big, really nice story on the passing of Larry King. Okay, so back in the 90s and up into the early 2000s, I did a lot of work for the Washington Post. A lot of social issue work, a lot of good reportage, stories along the border, political conventions, all sorts of different things. Just a wonderful place to work, and they still are, I'm sure. There's a lot of just great staff photographers, great editors there. Under the contract that I worked with them at that time, it was a very standard contract. They got to use the images for what they're hiring me for the one time, and any other usage would require that they either request permission or if we came to an agreement that they could use the images and then pay me based on our agreement. Okay, so I still retained control of the work. Very standard, and that was very standard, for a lot of clients that I had. So I did a shoot of Larry King back in 1996. I made a point of going and looking. I'd look at the Washington Post every day anyways as a subscriber, but I went and looked to see what they did on Larry King's passing, specifically thinking that they might end up reusing an image. Now, I had come to an agreement that they could keep my images in their archive, especially as they digitize their archive, but they put a disclaimer that any use of the images required them to reach out and connect with me prior to that. And that had been the case for many years where they would reach out. And that was great. And, I would just quote them a very standard, couple hundred, few $100s for use of the image. And it's been a number of years because a lot of the work that I did is now old, but they did end up using an image recently in this past week of Larry King's, a portrait that I had shot of Larry King on set. And they used it large, and then they used two, in the print edition, they used two images online. Now, they did not reach out to me, but that's okay because, some time has passed. I know they've gone into new systems and so forth. I don't think it was anything nefarious. It was, very much inadvertent. But I did see it, and I did reach out to them and request that I be able to provide an invoice to the correct editor. So I asked, where would this invoice go? When I received the response, I was told that, or more or less asked that they would pay $75 per photograph. That's substandard for the space rate that I would charge for a typical placement like they used. And because I control that work, I was able to very nicely say and show through licensing software that that was a substandard fee. And again, very professionally, very nicely, I negotiated a fee that was, again, very, very good fee for them, to be honest, because I did a lot of work for them. I do have some loyalty to them, so I did cut them a nice little deal, but it was essentially 3 times what they had offered, for the photographs, so to speak. So because I control that work, I was able to do that. And they agreed, no problem. They immediately agreed. They sent me a W-9 to fill out, so that they could issue me payment. Everything was great. There was no animosity. There was no anything. But because I control that work, because those images are mine, I did not have to accept what they were offering if it was below what I would normally license for. Second situation, which occurred just the other day, is I received an email from the press secretary for a congressman from Wisconsin. Okay, and the press secretary had come across my website, had Googled it. I had actually seen the activity on my website for an image of a golf course and a monastery that I had shot many years ago, not even many years ago, I'm sorry, about 2008, 2009, for Sports Illustrated. I was on assignment in Wisconsin for Sports Illustrated, had made this shot of this nice clubhouse on this golf course with this monastery that's in the background. And because I retained the rights to my work under that current agreement, that I was working under at that time with Sports Illustrated, I have the rights to control where that work is used. So when this press secretary found the images, she reached out with a polite email asking for permission for them to use the image, for the congressman to use the image as her social media page banner. Okay, so normally that would be a licensing fee, correct? This is a second part of why it's so important to control your work. First part being earn some licensing fees. Second part being you have a right to say no. You have a right to say, yes, I will engage and work with you. And you have a right to say, no, I'm not going to engage and work with you because I don't, necessarily, want my work associated with that, either publication or entity or corporation or person or anything. Okay. So what I did in this case is before I responded, he's a Republican congressman out of Wisconsin. I did some research, very easy, very quick, and discovered that this representative, Mr. Fitzgerald, did vote to overturn the Biden victory. And he voted to overturn in the House of Representatives. He was one of 140 some odd reps on the Republican side that voted to overturn the legitimate victory of President Biden. That does not sit right with me. And as we know, I think that was a catalyst towards, along with those that did object in the Senate, towards what happened on January 6th at the Capitol. Without going into all that, I definitely do not want my work associated with that person. Okay. I believe he's contributed to an insurrection. And I had some very, strong words in response, as I posted on my Twitter feed. So basically, as I told them, I was taking a patriotic pass. I told them, no, I will not allow you to use my images. Now, I can do that because I control my work. I can tell them no. And I did tell them no. I don't want their money. Okay? Not in that case. So these are reasons why copyright and control of your work are so important, because if I didn't maintain the copyright, if I didn't have control of that work, they could go find that image in a library and license it. And I don't want that to be the case. Okay, meaning a photo library. I want to control my work and determine where it goes. And if I do engage with an agency, which I do, then obviously we're on the same page with how certain images are used. So that's very important to me. I hope it's important to you all to control your work. And make sure that it's published in manners that are consistent with what you believe and that are true to the subject matter in certain cases, okay? So keep that in mind going forward. I just wanted to share those two examples of why I think copywriting and controlling your work are so important. Now, I'll leave you with this. If for any reason, and this has happened, it happened in 2016 with another congressman, and I had to sue that used an image as part of his campaign. But because my work is copyrighted, if anybody uses it and I discover that that's the case, I'm going to have a lawyer reach out to them. Okay, so by copyright registering my work, it allows me to really protect it. And that's very important to me. Okay. Hope that helps to some degree on the business side. Thanks for stopping in. I always appreciate it. And I hope to see you next week.